So, a really successful season. Now the hard work begins because we need to build a squad ready for Serie A. Right, and before we do that, let's just have a quick look through the squad for this season. And there's been some really, really good performances, is the first thing to say. Colucci, perhaps not quite among them, and maybe that's one player who we may sadly have to bid adieu to this summer. Just while he's obviously looking like he's a first-choice player, when I don't really think he is. Best players this year, though, I mean, Turinense had a great run at the end of the season, unexpectedly, and he did brilliantly. If I can bring him in, I will, but I think it's probably unlikely, to be honest. I think it would take a lot of money, and his contract is not up until the next summer. So, I mean, he's on $500,000 a year, and that's not something I can afford, even with the extra money we're going to get from Serie A. So I think that's probably a no-go. But Meloni, he's got at least another year, and I'm not minding to sell him, even though he is going to be moving on. My thinking now is that whilst he's been brilliant this year, he may not quite be so good in Serie A. So actually having him for one more year may not be the worst thing in the world. Agostini, for me, player of the season. He didn't get it, but I think he's fantastic. I think he's been the difference maker. Bolzan, 22 goals, most we've ever had by a striker in a season. And he has been great, but I think a lot of that goes down to particularly Meloni, but others as well, but Meloni in particular, who's been fantastic. So goals-wise, it's great that we've got 3 players who got 10. Turinense coming at the end of the season and scoring as freely as he did was fantastic alongside Bolzan, and I think that's probably what sort of secured it at the end of the season, because obviously when he came in, we were struggling. We were really, really struggling on the edge of falling away from the title, and then he came in. Took a little while to settle. I think he was playing in most of these games. You can see he's playing in all of these, probably from the first game in January. Yeah, he's played in all of them. So it took him a little while to settle, but once he did, I think this was his first goal. He got a hat-trick against Juventus, and then he never looked back. He got another one there, he got another one there, 2 more in the last 2 games. Admittedly, those last 2, as it turned out, were irrelevant, but those 2 were huge against Salernitana, because those were the ones that got us promoted. Fantastic from him. And yeah, I mean, what can you say? 7.42 XG, he scored 10, so he's overdoing it on the XG there. Bolzan, significantly overdoing it as well. Not far off twice the goals that he was expected to get. So it's been a good season for the strikers, there's no doubt about that. I've never had a striker score 20 goals in a season before. I got one player score 20 goals in a season, another get 11 in half a season. So 10 in half a season. So that is really, really good to see. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of these players will be moving on. That's the reality of a promotion. But the thing is, we can get quite a lot of money for them, and we're in a fairly decent position anyway. Got 204,000 in the back at the moment. I would imagine that there's some money still to come in that hasn't been factored into this projection, because I assume that you get a fair bit of TV money from Serie A. So those are all things that we can be thinking about. Andrew Glazer, he's wanted at the moment. He's actually out of contract anyway, so I won't be getting a fee for him. But I reckon someone like Colucci is perhaps someone that we want to move on now, while he looks like he's sort of fairly valuable, when I don't think he's quite going to be that player for me in Serie A. The other one is Bolzan, I suppose. Great season though he's had. Is this the time when you sell him, given how much money you can get for him? Do you try and replace him with someone else? Maybe. I want a lot of money for him though. I want 3/4. And if I don't get that, I'll keep him. I think he's good enough to do a job for me, I think, in Serie A. Is he the striker I want? Probably not. But can he be the second striker like Turinense was this year? Absolutely he can. 100%. So yeah, that's something to think about. Going back to this season, so yeah, as you can see, a lot of players on these green 7 pluses. Obviously, you can discount Perizan, you can discount Michelucci, but other than that, they've all played, well, maybe possibly Cristaldi as well, but other than that, they've all played a significant part in this season, from Turinense, Bolzan to Meloni, but also Agostini and Pizzoni as well, who has been fantastic for me this season. He's just got better and better and better as his career's gone on. You can see, he made a very good start, actually. That was in Serie C, and then since he got into Serie B, he's got better and better and better, and he's starting to look now like a really top-class player for me. And certainly someone I want to keep around. The only players who are leaving for sure, obviously the 3 loanees, Glazer and Straudi, both of whom I've decided are not worth keeping. And Dicho's already out of contract anyway, but as you can see, he's not very good. To be fair, he's outperformed his actual ability, I think. But I don't think he's a player that I want to keep around. There are some interesting stats in the long-term stats as well. You can see Roller extending his lead at the top of that leaderboard for you. And Colucci is looking like he's going to take second place soon. They may not get a huge amount more, but that is still a very, very good record for them. And there are a couple of other players who will be coming on behind and may perhaps appear in that list next season, depending on who we sign. And in terms of the goals, Bolzan becomes the top scoring striker I've had. Gioldi, obviously a central midfielder, was here for a very, very long time, so he got more. Bolzan looks like he probably won't have a chance to catch Gioldi, though, because it looks like he's a player that I might be trying to sell. Whether I will be able to sell him or not, I don't know. If I don't sell him, he may well be my first choice next season, and then he does have a chance. He could easily catch Bolzan over the next couple of years. I mean, he probably won't do it next year because I can't really see him scoring 25 goals in one season in a new division. But if he was to stay for 2 years, which is not impossible, although probably unlikely, then he would probably have some kind of chance, I would have thought. So we will see what happens with that. So now it's a case really of trying to find the players who are going to keep me in Serie A. I've obviously got a few players coming in already, mostly with Serie B in mind. So, I mean, Cabot, I don't think he's going to be anywhere near good enough. He might have been useful back up in Serie B, but not in Serie A. This guy, maybe, if he can develop a bit, then he could become useful. But when it's leaving. And Minutolo is probably the best of them. But again, I don't know if he's going to be good enough in Serie A. We'll have to see about that. We have, though, got quite a lot of budget to deal with. So we can hopefully get quite a few players to improve on the squad as it is currently. I don't think there are many players who are going to be first team ready in this team, in that league. I might keep Meloni around, perhaps. Agostini, definitely. Bolzan, if he stays, will be striker still. Pizzoni can probably get away with it. That's probably going to be it, if I'm honest. Straudy, I'd probably be perfectly happy to have as a backup, but not any more than that. Same with Colucci. And I don't know whether Colucci would want to do that. Pellicano, you would think he'd be good enough, but he hasn't done it this year, so I don't see why he would necessarily next year. Vignola, I still think has potential, but isn't there yet. So he could probably come in for the odd game here and there. But other than that, there's not a huge amount of quality here that says, oh yeah, I can do it in Serie A. So there's going to be quite a lot of players I'm going to be looking to move on and sort of replace over the summer. Andrew Glazer being one of those. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to get sort of a significant amount of money for some of these players. Some of the players who've been around for a while and perhaps aren't quite up to the standard that I'm going to need for next season. I mean, Colucci is an obvious one who I could get quite a bit of money for. If I can get, say, 200,000 for him, I think I'd be pretty happy. And then we just see if we can find a few players who can really fill in those holes and become our best players. Because what you want is the players who are the best players this season just to be the bit player players next season. The ones who make up the numbers, who are fine, they can play first team, but they're not going to be like the leading lights, the best players, the players like Meloni, Agostini, Bolzan, and Pizzoni have been this year. We want new players to come and be that step up from last year, because otherwise, a Serie B team who couldn't even quite win the league, we're not going to stay in Serie A if our best players are still our best players. We're going to have to find a few who are better than that. And that's the challenge for this summer. So I will be back shortly with the first little update of that. And hopefully I'll be able to bring you some news of a few really, really good signings coming in. So I do have some news, and that is that the projection was indeed wrong because, wow, look at this. I mean, obviously this is May 2035, so this is assuming we stay in Serie A. The projection is that we'll have £82 million. Obviously that's minus any transfer fees that we pay, but also without the transfer fees we receive as well. So, I mean, even by the end of next season, we're sort of talking about 30 million quid, which is why we've got this much money to spend. And actually, I think we could probably push that even further if we wanted to. The board won't let me at the moment, but who knows? It does mean that I'm less scared about making using the most of our wage budget up on that, and certainly some of the transfer budget as well. So if I leave it like that, maybe we can afford to do it like that at the moment. So that will give us, some. We can make some several hundred thousand pound signings that will hopefully improve this team, and that's brilliant for us to actually think about getting in for next year, because that's the kind of amount that you're going to need to get a player who's going to make a real difference in a Serie A side. I've just noticed Brian Lentini is better than I thought he was. I'm going to bring him into the senior squad. That's where we are at the moment. We are still, we still got a lot of work to do. So we've got a few players coming in, but they are young players in general. We need some really, really top players to come in and make a change to this team that you can see. So I'll be back in a second with a lot more players because we've got the money. So here we are, a week into July, and so far we've just got the 3 pre-planned signings, Juventus and 2 from Milan. There's nothing massively to write home about. Cabba has some potential, definitely. Certainly for a decent squad player at this level. Tedesco, ditto. I don't really see him as more. I'm training him up to play left wing, as in a bit deeper. There is potential there. Not sure if he'll be brilliant, but then this guy again, there's potential here. Don't expect it to be absolutely brilliant, but he'll do a job. And actually, he's the third striker I need this year, just to kind of fill in when needed. If he does develop, great, but if not, he'll just be good backup for one season, and then that will be hopefully the only role he plays, because we'll find someone better for the year after. So my squad now looks kind of ready. It's now a question of seeing where we can actually make significant improvements. There's work to be done on that front still. There's quite a few of these players who I don't think are quite up to the level I need them to be. As you can see, we've got a lot of good players. At the moment, our first 11 hasn't changed. Now that you would think is a massive risk. We've got Turinenzi back, but I certainly need a right winger. Probably could do with another right back. Correction, definitely need another right back. I could probably do another central midfielder as well, although Vignola is pretty good. But yeah, I think that's probably the minimum. 2 right-sided players and a central midfielder. Absolute bare minimum. And if we can get a couple more, then that would be great. So we will report back shortly when hopefully some of those gaps will be filled. I may have signed the most significant signing of the transfer window here in Sergei Makarovic. Belarusian, non-EU, which is a problem because we can only sign 2. But look at those physicals. He's great determination. He's just going to be brilliant. I think he's going to be a really, really good signing. So hopefully that's something that we can really take the advantage of. Obviously, right wing was a bit of a problem. It has been for a while. Just going to put him into the mentoring group because I think he could be very useful. Surprised he's only average, really. Only one significant influence on the group here. I would have thought he would have been a big one, Makarovic. But that certainly improves our squad significantly. We had Giordano there, who I probably would have preferred to Roller in the long term, but we now go for Makarovic, and that's an easy one to decide. So hopefully we've got a couple more players still who can come in and improve the squad, but I'm actually at the point now where I'm pretty happy. Right back is probably the biggest area where I'd like to improve still, but that's pretty much the only one I think. I'm happy to keep Maloney there because he had such a good season last year. He deserves a chance. Might see if I can get an improved centre-back, but on Colucci, that's the only other one really. We've got Cabba coming through, who will probably be better than Colucci fairly soon. But if we have to wait a couple of years for that, then that's fine. So right back is the big issue at the moment. We're very well stocked in most other positions, particularly up front. We've got a lot of players up front who've got very, very good potential. Minutolo's come in. We've got Stipper, who's still decent, although probably not going to be as good a player as he might have been at one point. But we've also got Cristaldi as well, who's only 16. So plenty of options up front there. So I'll be back shortly, hopefully with the right back. But other than that, I think I'm pretty much there. This is a Serie A squad, folks, I think. And quicker than I expected, I have filled in that gap. Andrea Bartoli has come in as my new right back. Perfectly serviceable. He's not brilliant. He's not going to be kind of exciting going forward or anything like that, but he's going to be perfectly serviceable. He's going to be solid in defence, physically very, very good. And that's what I want, because the right side is going to be the defensive side. We're going to be aiming to do our attacking on our left. So even though he's quite a defensive player, he can dribble. He's got pace. The crossing's not so good, but that's fine. I can tell him to cross less. In fact, I'll do that now. I'm going to tell him to stay wider though. He's going to cross less often though, because he can't cross. So we will hopefully be able to find Markovic or someone inside of him. And Makarovic, I did have him on a defensive winger before, because the right winger option I had before that was Giordano, who was very, very well suited. Well, he wasn't really suited to play at all, but if he was going to play, he was going to be a defensive winger. He's not really up to it. In fact, if I can get rid of him, Might try and do that. Six-figure sum would be good for a player who's not really very good. So yeah, Bartoli comes in, and I think that really now is a squad that I'm very, very happy with. Colucci is perhaps the only player I would like to do a bit of improvement on. Gilberti maybe as well. So left back and centre back are the two areas now which sort of biggest priorities. But actually, I'm now at a point where I genuinely would be happy to just leave it as it is exactly and not have to worry about it anymore, because this is a squad I can be happy enough with to just sort of stick with it and say, well, that's what we'll go with this season. Really good news before we hit the new season. We have increased our junior coaching budget so that we can start to increase the ability of the players coming through. You might get the odd superstar coming through. Unfortunately, our youth recruitment, however, is not yet being agreed to. Let's see if I can change their mind. We can never be satisfied with that. And good, they are changing that, so that's fantastic. We've just got another recruitment thing. I've been overhauling the backroom staff a little bit, and then you can see, yeah, we are now going to be looking to. We've gone from adequate recruitment to average. Oh, average. Sorry, I misread it. Average youth recruitment. So it's obviously improving the players that are coming forward, and also the way we train them in the club. So that's got to be good news. Right, so here we are. Not the first game in Serie A. That will wait till next video. But the first game with this new squad in the Coppa Italia against Lecce. It's a game we should win because they are a team who are in Serie B. So definitely a game we should win. But I'm interested to see how some of these new signings fit into the side. I'm quite pleased with this team now. Bear in mind that Ponzi, who is probably the weakest player in this current team, we've got Giliberti coming in. He's currently injured and suspended, so he should be back for the next game. If not, then the one after. So we are hoping that some of these new players can come in and make a difference. I've only just noticed this, but Leshuk, who we brought in on loan, is decent. And it looks like he may be a possibility at the end of the season because he's coming out of his. He's going to be out of contract at the end of the season with Udinese. So it is possible I may be able to keep him if he works out. Obviously, maybe one of those situations where if he works out, there's enough interest in him from other teams that we can't get him. I don't know. And it will probably depend on whether we can stay up or not. It goes without saying that is very much the aim for this season, our first in Serie A. But for today, I think we'll go with Tedesco because Luca Meloni is not quite fit. He's still the first choice there. He was brilliant last season and he will continue there. But today he's not quite ready, I don't think. So we're going to go with this side. We've got Agostini, Bartoli, Leshuk, Pizzoni, Ponzi, Makarevic, Costabile, Pelicano and Tedesco, Minitolo and Tirinanzi up front. Colucci is still on the bench. May come in at some point in the season, particularly for Pizzoni, who there's not a lot of difference between the two. But I would like to have a homegrown youngster in the team at various points in this season. He's the only one who comes close to really being good enough, I think. But we will see how it goes, I suppose. I'm sure Rollo will get the odd game here and there. Legend that he is, even if he hasn't been as good as I hoped. You can see a whole load of new players coming in. Fiorentino on the bench, obviously Stipo on the bench. Quite a few of these on the bench, but a few also who are not on the bench, who are very much first-choice players. So we are going to kick off our season here against Sami Hadanovic's Lecce. And hopefully we can make fairly short work of them. As I've said before, the Coppa Italia is not a big priority for me, really. It's only not until I think there's a realistic chance of winning it. But it would be nice to get through a round or two. I don't think I've got through many rounds. I may have won once in the Coppa Italia. It'd be nice to get another one, I suppose. Not that it will make a huge amount of difference to us in any real sense of the word. If I get the cross in. Will do now, though. And we've got the goal. The Leshuk scores on his debut. And good corner routine comes off there. Good to see scoring from set pieces. I think that's going to be a crucial part of this season because we are going to struggle to score a huge amount from set plays against better sides than us. If we can get the odd goal from set pieces, it will give us points occasionally. And that's going to be a crucial part, I think, of this season. Lombardo crosses in. This is obviously not one of those games where I'm worried about sort of not being able to score much because this is a team we should be able to beat and beat fairly easily. But just showing what we can do in terms of those set pieces will be helpful in the long run this season. Tedesco can't quite get through. Ponzi, Pelicano. They're threatening. Definitely threatening that second goal. Pelicano to Tedesco. Ponzi now. Ponzi gets the ball in and gone over the bar from the shot. But we are definitely looking very, very threatening. Gaetano Agostini holds on to it. I think it might have been offside anyway. Yes, it was. Ponzi. Pizzoni. Constabile. Tedesco now. Makarovic, can he get the cross in? Fouled, so he will get the cross in. And straight to the arms of Guidotti. We are definitely threatening that second goal, but we can't yet find it. Okay, so not the best starts in terms of XG, bearing in mind that this is a team we should really be beating. They're a team in the division below us. If we're going to stay up this year, it's the team we should be beating every single time. We should be beating better teams than this, I would have thought. Games against teams like Juventus, Inter Milan, etc. this season. And we can't really afford to be dropping points against the weaker sides, even in Serie A, let alone Serie B. Gaetano shoots, and great save there from Agostini. But in good game. Lombardo, Agostini saves it again. Bartoli off because he's struggling a little bit. Let's bring on Colucci. Not his favourite position at right back, but he can play it. Vignola is going to come on for Pelicano. And Minutolo is there. Another goal on debut from Minutolo. Great ball in from Tedesco as well. And hopefully that is game, set and match. And the first round of the cup successfully navigated. Karovic is struggling a bit. He's had a good game though. We can bring on Giordano. We've conceded now. Will that be disallowed? No, I don't think it will. It's 2-1. We are going to confirm that substitution anyway. And Minutolo, and we can make the 3. Lecce are threatening to be equalised now, and they have done. Goodness. It was me thinking the game was won, and we've thrown it away, really. There's a bit of a fitness issue. First game of the season. Vignola crosses the ball in. Guidotti saves it for Lecce. I'm assuming we're going to extra time. I don't know whether that means I might get another substitution. Might do. Yes, it is extra time. Can we make another sub? We can. Right. The question is who? Let's just have a quick pause. Minutolo is struggling. I think Bolzan is probably the best player we've got on the bench. Tanner. I haven't checked. Let me check Tanner. It's been a couple of days since I played this, so I can't quite remember these new signings and how good they are. Compare him to Bolzan. Bolzan's probably better. Not a huge amount in it, but I think Bolzan's probably better. Vignola now. Pizzoni. Back to Vignola. Bolzan finds Tirinanzi and can't quite find the bottom corner. But we are threatening again. Vignola. Another header goes wide. Definitely looking very, very threatening. Can we get the goal? Be disappointing not to win this game, really. Looks probably like we're going to penalties here. Let's see if we can just go for it a little bit, because I think we are the better team here. If anyone's going to score, it feels like it'll be us. Famous last words, obviously. Correnti, it was indeed famous last words. Might be offside. No, it's not. I think that probably will be that. As I've said before, I don't really mind too much about the actual result. What I'm more worried about is the fact that we've not really been brilliant. We can't make any more substitutions, so we're down to 10 men as well. It's been a pretty poor performance, really. And possibly more worrying is the levels of, unfitness. You can see a lot of red here on the bottom bar of these hearts. There are problems here going on with our fitness, and something I need to really think about. We weren't great there. We really weren't. It's a shame, but we can focus on the league. Obviously, the league is our massive priority this season. So we will have to go and take this away, have a look at what went wrong, and how we managed to let a 2-goal lead slip in the last 15 minutes. In fact, in the last 7 minutes. It's obviously disappointing, but there are some positives as well. A couple of players scoring on their debuts, and we managed to give them some time as well, because whilst the fitness is a problem, obviously time playing is obviously going to be the only way really to improve on that. We will clearly be back for the Bologna game, and I think we'll do the Empoli game as well. So first home, first away game in Serie A for the next video. I will see you then for Serie A, the very first video in it. It's quite exciting, really. I've been looking forward to this for quite a long time. So join me then. I will see you